And welcome back to Alice Talks Football, and welcome back to another live Manchester United news, transfer news, and update show. Romano confirms Manchester United do like Tonali. And news on that, Casemiro talks about how Michael Carrick has made him feel like a player again. What Jason Wilcox said to the Manchester United squad after we were knocked out versus Brighton and Amorim was sacked, and how that sparked the United squad. I mean, I'd say into good form, but I'm not going to give Wilcox any credit for the United players being sparked into good form. That was all Carrick's work. We're going to talk about how INEOS was made to look like a fool by Ruben Amorim, some of the things that Ruben Amorim said to gaslight INEOS. We're going to talk about updates on Mbeumo, his fitness. He should be able to play tomorrow. Updates on the West Ham game, the travelling squad, and more. And there was also even some links to Iliman and Jai today. Now, before I get into news, before I get into anything, West Ham have won 4 of their last 5 games. People are thinking West Ham's going to be a walk in the park. West Ham have won 4 of the last 5 games. West Ham have found some form. West Ham have looked half decent lately. They have some decent players, and Nuno's finally clicked. We're not playing West Ham at the best time. I would have liked to have played West Ham 2 months ago. And when we did play West Ham, we had an opportunity to beat them, and they were crap. We didn't. West Ham have found a bit of something. They found a bit of form, and it's really important that these players do not underestimate West Ham. It's away from home. They've won 4 of their last 5. They've played some good football lately. They embarrassed Burnley. They had a really good first half where they outplayed Chelsea, but Chelsea just about got back into that second half. It is really, really important we don't underestimate West Ham. They could have been 3-0 against Tottenham at halftime. They could have been 3-0 against Chelsea at halftime. The way that West Ham have gone at those bigger teams has been incredible. It's not going to be this easy game that everyone thinks it is. I think we'll win. I think we're good enough to win, but I think we need to remember that. And hopefully the players do not underestimate West Ham. Anyway, let's get into the news. And let's get into the stories and all of that as well. We also did watch a Garnacho stinker versus West Ham, which was very enjoyable. I almost tweeted a funny thing about Garnacho today, and I thought, you know what, I'll leave it. It will rattle some people on Twitter. I couldn't be bothered to have Twitter beef today, but I almost did make a joke about Garnacho. Not many easy matches in the Premier League anymore. Anyway, have to be up every match. Like, the only easy match you would say is Wolves, and we played them twice and we didn't beat them the second time. It's not like we got Southampton or Leicester or Ipswich this season. The relegated sides are a lot better. You know, there's a possibility Spurs could get relegated, which is nuts. So every game needs to be serious. And I'm going to say this now. There's a reason why Chelsea, Liverpool, Newcastle, Tottenham, they're not winning as much as they'd like in the Premier League. Even Manchester City have dropped a lot of silly points. And that is because of the fact that the Premier League, I think, is the hardest it's ever been, in the sense of the gap between the top teams and the bottom teams, and particularly the top teams and the middle teams, is smaller than it's ever been. The top teams, or the big teams, we'll say, in the Premier League, aren't winning as many games as they used to because the middle teams are so much stronger than they used to be, and the gap is not much between them and the bottom teams. I think this is one of the toughest Premier League seasons in terms of quality. It's one of the most boring to watch, but it's been the toughest in the terms of quality. It's fine margins, set pieces, outside the box goals are the winning games, and that is the meta this season. I think people need to remember that. But look, a guy could be getting his haircut tomorrow. I mean, if we lose or draw, imagine if we're winning and we concede in like the last minute, it would be... I'm worried that, like, West Ham have got a bit of extra motivation. But anyway, let's get into news. Let's get into stories. Let's get into Mr. Lovely Michael Carrick. What an upgrade on Ruben Amorim this guy has been. I don't want to speak too soon because West Ham will not be as easy as people think tomorrow. But 4 wins in 4 for Michael Carrick. Michael Carrick now has as many clean sheets this season as Ruben Amorim. And Michael Carrick plays a more attacking brand of football. Plays 4 at the back instead of 5. And when we're 1-0 up, Michael Carrick wants us to make it 2-0 up. When Arsenal made it 2-2, Michael Carrick pushed for us to make it 3-2. When we're 1-0 up versus Tottenham, he pushes to make it 2-0 up. Ruben Amorim, we're 1-0 up versus West Ham, now defend. You know, and people said, but Ruben Amorim has to get them to defend, otherwise we concede if we attacked anyway. Well, Michael Carrick has gone and attacked, and boom, boom, boom. Michael Carrick subs. He's been fantastic. You know, Kobe Mainoo has been like a January signing. Lissandro Martinez has been like a January signing. And the work that Michael Carrick has done is excellent, particularly in fixing our midfield issues. And look, if he continues this way, he may well get the job. But it's been a breath of fresh air since Ruben Amorim has left. And one of the interesting things said about Michael Carrick was this. Casemiro has always placed great importance on being respected, thanked Michael Carrick and told him he felt like a footballer again. Michael Carrick, and I think, was it Luke Shaw that kind of said this? I don't know who said it. No, it wasn't Luke Shaw. It was someone it wasn't a footballer. It was a pundit. Someone said that being manager of Manchester United isn't just being a good coach. Ruben Amorim was a good coach, but he wasn't a good manager. Being manager of Man United, you have to learn how to deal with the players, speak to the players, coach them, and you also have to be adaptable. And that's what Michael Carrick is. He understands the club. He knows what needs to be done. He knows how to speak to the players. And you can see the way the players are talking about Casemiro, the way the players feel around Carrick. Carrick is making them feel like players again. Ruben Amorim, it felt like he was sucking the life out of this club. Kobbie Mainoo, the free Mainoo with his brother, people weren't happy with that. Countless players being played out of position. Bruno Fernandes being asked to play deeper, midfield being run through, and all of a sudden, that life, it feels like it's back inside Manchester United. And I love reports like this where it talks about, Carrick's management and all of that. And don't get me wrong, this could be INEOS PR. This is, we didn't do anything in January. We were exposed when we sacked Amorim because he called us out, not because he was a crap manager. And, we need to clean our image. So we're going to put a load of Carrick PR stuff out and get some positive attention around Man United to distract people from the Glazer out protest, to distract people from being critical of INEOS, of course. But, that doesn't take anything away from the fact that Michael Carrick has done a good job. I remember me and you were Amorim skeptic after the Fulham draw in the season. I got so much flame for it, so did you. I did. I wasn't even Amorim out. I remember after the Fulham game, I said, guys, it's only the second game of the season. And I said, I don't know if I'm being reactionary, but Amorim was completely tactically outdone. That second game of the season, Marco Silva came out in the press conference and he basically explained Amorim's system, the fact that Amorim doesn't change his system, the fact that Amorim only does this, and he basically explained how you nullify Amorim's system. And it was the fact that Marco Silva had figured out Amorim's system, changed Fulham in the second half, dominated the second half, explained Amorim's system. That made me worried about Amorim. And I got loads of stick for that because I wasn't even Amorim out back then. But that was the first warning. Alex says, man management is massive. Biggest club. Varane dropped the truth. That was miserable under Ten Hag. Yeah. Even Ten Hag, Ten Hag, I think Amorim was a better man manager than Ten Hag. I think Ten Hag was a better manager than Amorim. But I think Amorim was a better man manager than Ten Hag. So yeah, I thought that was quite interesting. But I want to talk about what Wilcox had told the players. And I think this was just after we got knocked out the FA Cup to Brighton. Man United versus Brighton. I think this was just after. Yeah, we got knocked out on the 11th of Jan to Brighton. So just after we got knocked out to Brighton, our season was over. All we have left to play for the season is top 4. We got knocked out to Brighton in the first round of the FA Cup. All we have to play for the season is top 5. And on Monday, Jason Wilcox met the Man United players after the FA Cup shambles, and he told them that appointing the right caretaker manager is crucial, but he said it's clear that qualifying for the Champions League is the target, which is mad because they didn't give Amorim this target. Amorim's target was to get Europa League. Michael Carrick comes in, and they tell him he needs to get Champions League. Amorim was here for 14 months, and he only had to get Europa League. Carrick's come in the door with Amorim's squad, and you want him to get Champions League, and you didn't give him anything in January. But I think Carrick could do that. But one thing that was stressed to the squad, and what Wilcox told the players behind closed doors, was it's time to get Champions League football. The players were told behind closed doors, it is time to get Champions League football. It's time to go out there. It's time to deliver. Now, from what I'm hearing from other rumours and speculation, after the Brighton game, the next day there was a big, you need to get top 5 now. You've gone out both competitions early. The first one to Grimsby was a disgrace. There's no forgiving that. Brighton's a difficult game. There's no forgiving Grimsby. There's a new interim coming in. It's Michael Carrick. You need to get top 5. And that was relayed from Wilcox to the players. And I'm not giving Wilcox credit for the players now playing well and winning 4 in a row. That is all Carrick. But the message was, after Amorim was sacked and we got knocked out the cup, we have to make up for it by getting UCL football. The message from Wilcox was, you have to make up from this horrific season by getting UCL football, because that's all you've got left. You're not in any cup competitions. There is no excuses. Liverpool have fallen off. Chelsea have fallen off. There's no excuses. You've got to get UCL football. And look, if we don't get UCL football because something happens to Bruno or Casemiro gets injured, that will be on Wilcox and that will be on INEOS. They would have told the players, you need to do this, and then they haven't given maybe the resources that were needed. They've taken a risk by saying we've only got 1 game a week, 2 tomorrow. But that was the message said to the players behind closed doors, and so far we're delivering on that. However, we've got 2 game a week Casemiro coming up tomorrow versus West Ham. Casemiro, when he plays 2 games a week, Casemiro, when he plays 1 game a week, is like the best DM in the world. When he plays 2 games a week, it's like a different player. And I'm hoping that we can keep up the intensity with the second game this week. I'm going to go through the chat. No time for negative. I'm out. I don't really know what's being negative today. I'm just saying we need to be wary of West Ham. We're playing exciting, attacking football. Players are playing in their correct position, quality, quick, free-flowing when needed. But Carrick changes tactics, only small tweaks, but good. Yeah, I mean, Carrick's made a few tactical tweaks, and it's been very good work. I think Carrick's tactics are simple but effective. He doesn't like to overcomplicate things, which is good to see. If INEOS acted earlier, we wouldn't be at all the cups. Exactly. I mean, Amorim probably should have been sacked after Grimsby. I mean, the fact we're not sacked to Grimsby, you can blame... To be honest, a big part of that was Onana. So, actually, you're right. You can't even blame... If INEOS had got rid of Onana and brought in a goalkeeper for the start of the season, we wouldn't have had to play Onana versus Grimsby, who would... Look, while that was atrocious, and I'm not making excuses for Amorim or the squad, that was, for me, 20% Amorim, 10% players... 70% Onana if we go to Grimsby. So you make a point, and we could have done stuff before the Brighton game in January. It's Fergie football, never thought I'd see it again. We've just got to hope it lasts more than 4-game purple patch, and try not to get carried away because we've seen this team down tools. We've seen this team go and win 4 or 5 games in a row, beat some really difficult teams, and then they'll go and play a West Ham and down tool. And West Ham are in good form as well. We will miss Casemiro. We will. We have to replace him. We're going to talk about Tonali in a second, but I want to talk about how I feel like Amorim had fooled INEOS. I feel like Michael Carrick winning 4 in a row, something that Amorim has never done, is kind of making INEOS look like fools. INEOS had this... Look, a lot of people will say INEOS were right to back Amorim this long. Amorim was INEOS's manager. They were willing to sell Maynard for 40 million to back their manager. They were very committed to Amorim until he called them out, even when... We lost to 10-man Everton and we drew to West Ham and we lost to Grimsby and lost the Europa League final. INEOS kept saying they were going to back Amorim for 3 years. They were very committed to Amorim until about the end of December. And the only reason they stopped committing to Amorim was because he started having issues with them personally, not because of the football he was playing, not because of his negative brand of football, not because of the results. INEOS were fine with that. They were very loyal to Amorim. And some people will say that's a good thing, that INEOS wanted to give Amorim 3 years, and they would have if he didn't call them out. And it's pretty bad of INEOS for only sacking him because he called them out. But I feel like Amorim is making INEOS look like fools because Amorim would still be here if he didn't fall out Wilcox. He was only sacked to appease Wilcox's ego, which is a disgrace in itself. He should have been sacked because he wasn't good enough. If Amorim was still here, we don't win those 4 games in a row. And I feel like the fact that Amorim's been sacked, that INEOS didn't want to do until he called them out, and we've brought Carrick in and he's shown up Amorim in 4 games, done more than Amorim in 4 games than Amorim did in 14 months, it's making INEOS look like fools. Because INEOS was saying, you know what, we'll sell Kobbie Mainoo for 40 million for you. What a joke. They would sell Kobbie Mainoo for 40 million because Amorim doesn't rate him. And Amorim wanted us to spend 35 million on Conor Gallagher. You know, we were told we have to suffer to win. Well, we're not suffering now. We're playing good football. You refuse to adapt. You said the players were the problem, not your system, and you refuse to adapt. The players are doing well under Carrick. We lost the Europa League final. We lost a lot of revenue. He didn't even change his back 5 to a back 4 in the Europa League until the last 3 minutes when he brought on Mainoo. It was criminal, his management in the Europa League final. Spurs had so many injuries. You know, he said we had to suffer to win. It wasn't his system. It was the players. That's why we weren't winning. He wanted Mainoo gone for 40 million. He wanted Gallagher in for 35. I mean, the fact that INEOS were really ready to do this. I want to thank Ruben Amorim for calling out Jason Wilcox. 1, because he needed to be called out. And 2, because it made them finally sack you. And brighter days have come. But he really did make INEOS look like fools. He really did. And they would have backed that for a long time. They would have backed that for a long time. Bay and Deer don't make them Onana mistakes. I mean, Bay and Deer was cost us the Arsenal game. I will give Amorim this. If Bay and Deer wasn't an idiot, we get a point first game of the season versus Arsenal. And if Onana wasn't an idiot, we probably don't get knocked out versus Grimsby. I will give Amorim that. We got better when Lamont came in. Would you bring back Rashford? I'd love to bring back Rashford because I love Rashford, but I wouldn't. Like, I love Rashford. I think he's great. I think he'd be great under Carrick, but I wouldn't bring back Rashford because I think the relationship with Rashford and Man United is sour. I think his head is at Barcelona, and if Marcus Rashford's head needs to be there for him to perform, you know, we know that how his headspace is a big thing, so I would keep him at Barcelona, but I do love Rashford. Let's not make any decision to the end of the season. I agree. Amorim was not a good man manager either. He slated the squad and the youth. Yeah, I mean, I think what for me really put me off Amorim was to try and justify why he didn't win games last season and finish 15th. He was saying, "Look, I played Harry Amos, I played Cheeto, I played Fredrickson, I played Maino when I came 15th last season. That's why I won't play the youth this season." It was to try and justify not playing the youth by throwing other youth under the bus, and then started making out that Harry Amos wasn't doing well on loan when he was. It was. Yeah, his comments were just crazy. Are we really still rating Tonali that highly? I haven't been impressed with him lately. Tonali's been crap since November, but Belaver's not been amazing this season. Wharton had a good game at the weekend, but Wharton had a month drop off. Elliot Anderson's had 2 or 3 average games, so I do rate Tonali. I know he's dropped off this last month, but I think he could have Declan Rice level impact. Anyway. Should we dive into the news? Should we dive into transfer news? Because we actually do have some news and stories on Tonali here. There is appreciation from United for Sandro Tonali, but he's not the only midfielder on the list. Man United are waiting to see if they get CL football and who the manager will be before putting top target in midfield. The way I look at it is Tonali, Wharton, Belaber, Anderson are the main 4 targets. Let's get 2 of them, boom, and then we can get a third midfielder like a Sancho Burge for depth, or we look at a third more attacking, expansive-minded midfielder in Muzakitas. Let's get 2 of Sandro Tonali, Belaber, Wharton, Anderson. If we sign 2 of them, that's Casemiro and Agate replaced. Then we need somebody to be a bit more, maybe depth backup for Kobbie Mainoo, someone progressive. If Tottenham get relegated, we should go for Lucas Bergvall. If Tottenham get relegated. I think you could get him on the cheap. I know he's got injury issues, but Lucas Bergvall, Tonali, Belaber or Anderson would be, for me. Tonali strikes me the need to change the scenery. He was so good at Newcastle whole of last season. First 2-3 months of this season to about November. From August to about November, Tonali was mint. He was incredible. Something's not right with him in Newcastle. He's clearly not happy. His head's clearly not there. And that's not really a good trait. You want players that are always going to be there and always going to perform. But he definitely needs to change the scenery because that guy, I said in September that Tonali had a better 2025 than Declan Rice. And I doubled down on that because I think Tonali was better up until about September than Declan Rice. And then Declan Rice has got even better this season. Tonali's dropped. I think Super Mendes allowed Declan Rice to get better. Whereas Tonali's, is the DM. But I think he's insane. I really like him. Casemiro averages 1.6 per games. None of the sentiments were linked with close to that. My biggest fear isn't his shots per game, it's his headers. If you look at set pieces, it's always Casemiro and Maguire, the 2 players that might be going. For me, that is my biggest concern. Set pieces, someone that can get ahead on it. Casemiro's aerial presence, Casemiro's set piece threat is underrated. Scored a set piece in the Carabao Cup final. Scored a set piece versus Fulham. Amount of times Casemiro has popped up. Let's actually look at Casemiro goals. Let's have a look at all of Casemiro's goals. All the way down in 20th. So Casemiro scored a header versus... So 4 of Casemiro's 5 goals this season have been headers. So in the 37th minute versus Chelsea, Casemiro scores a header. In the 34th minute versus Brighton, he has that right-footed shot. In the game versus Nottingham Forest, when we go 1-0 up, that's a Casemiro header from a corner. The Bournemouth game, Casemiro makes it 2-2 with a header. And then you've got Casemiro in the 24th minute versus Fulham gets a header. So Casemiro scored a header versus Fulham. He scored a header versus Bournemouth. He scored a header versus Nottingham Forest. And he scored a header versus Chelsea. 4 of Casemiro's 5 goals are headers. So I think it's really important that we look at an aerial presence when we do replace Casemiro. Especially when Sesko does not play, we lack presence. Yeah, and I think Sesko is a good header of the ball, but Bruno played an unreal ball to Sesko last kick of the game. And that would have been Bruno's 13th assist as he's going for Henry's record, man. Sesko, you've got to put that away. Maguire, Sesko, Casemiro are aerial threats. Casemiro particularly, he's got 4 headed goals this season. That is not going to be easy to replace. And that's what we've got to look at. In terms of the West Ham game, Mbeumo is in the squad. West Ham are missing a few players of injuries. And the travelling squad for the West Ham game is this. Lamons, Odello, Mazraoui, Maguire, Leacher, Heaven, Shaw, There's no Euro been mentioned. Tyrone Malacia, Casemiro, Agati, Maino, Tyler Fletcher, not Jack Fletcher, interesting. Bruno Fernandes, Mateus Cunha, Ahmad Xerxes, Brian, and Bumo Sesko. Apparently, Lacey's picked up a knock as well. So that's who is in the squad ahead of the West Ham game. Glazers will not strengthen the squad enough. Cunha and Mbuma can't win us the league. Cunha and Mbuma can win us the league, but we need another good attacker. We need an out-and-out left winger. We need 3 midfielders, 2 of which are big midfield signings, and we need another defender for depth. So literally, we need 3 midfielders. We need a Casemiro and Agati replacement, and one of them's got to be a good aerial presence. We then need a more progressive midfielder as the third midfielder that can cover. We then need a defender that can cover defence in case of injuries. Maybe Maguire stays. And then we need a left wing. My gut instinct tells me Carrick could be the real deal. Manchester United, real deal managed to lead Man United to the promised land. Well, I hope so. He is the one 100% wins and makes it look like slick Fergie days. Are we all blind? I mean, right now it's brilliant, but it's 4 games. Liverpool won the first 5 games of the season, and then they fell off a cliff. Now, don't get me wrong. When Liverpool won the first 5 games of the season, were they convincing wins from Liverpool? No. Did Liverpool play particularly well? No. But we cannot get carried away. But I agree that lots of encouraging signs. How does Sesko miss the header? I was fuming because I want Bruno to win PFA Player of the Year and beat that Henry assist record. So I've never been so mad at Sesko because it was just a pathetic header. I try and lay off Sesko because I think people go in on him a bit. But I was like, Sesko! I was losing my mind. Alice, I liked your video on Ina Luka earlier. Thanks for that. I mean, she's been all over the media today. She's doubled down on her comments again. Like, as a woman who talks about men's football, when you have women saying that men can't talk about women's football on TV because he's taking her spot on TV, like, it really doesn't help. Like, women get a lot of shit for talking about football, online, on TV, all of that. So when a man talks about women's football, you can't give a man crap for it. You cannot give a man crap for being on TV talking about women's football if you want to be taken seriously talking about men's football. And she's waffling. And she was going, like, on today that Ian Wright is blocking opportunities for her. The reason she's not getting jobs in football anymore is because she's not a good pundit. Like, imagine Garnacho went to Barcelona and he couldn't get in the starting 11 over Yamal and Rafinha. And then Garnacho went and had a strop and told Yamal and Rafinha that they're blocking his opportunities and he's not getting the opportunities they get because he looks like, I don't know, a mass lesbian. And he feels that's why he's not getting the opportunities. No, the reason you're not getting the opportunities, Garnacho, is because you're not good enough. You're not as good as Yamal and you're not as good as Rafinha. But he has a strop. Nah, you're taking opportunities away from me and orders Rafinha and Yamal to play less games. That's what INEOS Luca's doing with Ian Wright. She's saying, stop talking about women's football on TV because you're taking a punditry role away from me. You can work on the men's game. And it's like, he's not taking that job away from you. He earned that job because he's better at that job than you. And if you want that job, you've got to get better at punditry. There's out of the 6 major slots in the Women's Euros final, 4 were women, 2 were men. I think that's a fair mix. So yeah, we were talking about that earlier, which is just crazy. Like, she's all over the internet today. She's not helping herself because there's a part of me that feels sorry for her because she's getting such a pile on. And I think some people are just generally nasty. And I think that there's times where she'll say something and she'll be over-criticised and people just go in at her because she's Ina Luka. And there's a part of me that feels sorry that she's so over-criticised and she gets way too much hate. But then she says things like this and she doubles down on it and I'm like, I don't want to see you getting this amount of hate. But you're not helping yourself. You're not helping the women's game. You're not helping women that work in men's football. She's on a mad one. Tyler only had 7 touches but looked solid. Tyler's little cameo was better than Jack's, but not enough to go on. It's 12-1 Bruno getting PFA Player of the Year. If Bruno goes on a mad run between now and the end of the season and someone like Declan Rice picks up an injury, that is his award. That is his award. Maybe she likes the attention. Maybe. I don't know why she keeps going on about Ian Wright and accusing Ian Wright of taking jobs away from her. That is literally like Garnacho going to Barcelona and accusing Lamine Yamal of taking appearances away from him. It's like, well, Lamine Yamal's better. Like, that's a fact. It's not... Oh, it's crazy. Do you know what's annoying? Is we do have a mini international break. This is what really annoys me. This is what really annoys me about Amorim losing that Europa League final. Because Let me show you this. I mean, like, it's going to be so boring because I actually want to watch us play now. Under Amorim, when we had big breaks and international breaks, I wasn't that bothered because I didn't really want to watch us play under Amorim. But now I want to watch us play. These big breaks aren't fun. Between the West Ham game and Everton, we've got 13 days. We have to wait nearly because we're bloody Monday night football. Why don't you just put us on a Saturday? We haven't played in 2 weeks. Put us on an effing Saturday. But no, you want to make more money out of Man United, so you're giving us Friday night, Monday night to make as much money out of us as possible. Put us on an effing Saturday because now we have to wait an extra 2 days. We could have played on the 21st, and that's an 11-day gap, 13-day gap. So we have to wait 13 days for Everton, which is even more important why we beat West Ham. Because if we lose to West Ham, we'll have 13 days of negativity and people being overreactionary because Carrick's lost 1 of 5 games. So please beat West Ham. 13 days. Then we have to wait a week. Fine, whatever. And then, there's one just after Newcastle midweek. And then another 2-week break. Well, 11 days. 11 days between Newcastle and Villa. Oh, and then between Bournemouth and Leeds, 2 weeks. Is that 3 weeks? 3 weeks. We've got 1 game in 4 weeks here. We've literally got 1 game in the space of 4 weeks, and that's Bournemouth. Oh, it's just nasty. And then it gets a bit more yeah, that is the worst part of losing the Europa League final. That is the worst part. We have momentum, worst time for any sort of break. Exactly. I remember when we had a bit of a meh period in the season. We had the COVID break, and some of the teams that were really good before the COVID break in the 1920 season dropped off. Some of the teams like us that weren't great before the COVID break in the 1920 season went, breaks influence momentum, and that's a 3-week break. So, yeah, it's going to be long. So that's why we need to win these games as well, because if we, win versus West Ham and we go into a 13-day break having won 5 in a row, it's nice. But if you go into a 13-day break having lost your last game and it being embarrassing, you have to wait 2 weeks for the players to make it up. And that's annoying. I think we should go to Saudi and just have a nice little friendly. Give us something to do because that is too long. We need a friendly. We need a bit of something. It's ridiculous how little games we're playing this season. Honestly, I just wish for the Champions League. The Champions League is so much better than the Premier League right now. So much better. I just wish I could watch us in the Champions League. Oh, I'm so annoyed at us losing to Tottenham. Listen, people, let me see if there's any more news stories. Apparently, United look at Njai. Njai and Diamonde are among targets. I think we should go for Kvaratskhelia. I think PSG could potentially sell. Obviously, there's talk of them selling Barcola. I think we should go for Kvaratskhelia. I think he would be a very good left winger, particularly if we have Carrick and Carrick ball continues. Obviously, it's hard to say who our number 1 target's going to be because we don't know who the manager's going to be. We don't know who the manager's going to want, so it's hard to know. But I think Kvaratskhelia would be nice. But I'm going to wrap up today's live show. I will be back tomorrow with a Manchester United West Ham match reaction. I'll probably get a bit of content out in the morning for you guys. Thanks everyone for tuning in. See you next time. Bye.